Well, race 2 coming up shortly, and that'll be getting underway in half an hour or so. And we will take a quick look first at the action from the first race. Well, this has always been a racetrack at which BMW and Seat have fared well. Seat claiming their first points, their first win, and the first win for a diesel here, and BMW winning all the other races that Seat didn't. So Rob Huff on the front row of the grid, and Alain Menu in 5th, and Nicola Larini in 2nd for Chevrolet, promised perhaps a change of things, and Huff desperate to avenge that tyre failure that robbed him of his first win of the season in Brands Hatch. At the start though, Gabriele Tarquini just ahead of the Chevrolet. Augusto Farfus coming in from behind on the left-hand side of the picture in the white BMW. Farfus starting very strongly from 5th place on the grid, and Nicola Larini turned around after contact with Thiago Montero. Rob Hoff also getting a big sideways thump there as Gabriele Tarquini got inside him into the first corner. But out of the first corner, it was Augusto Farfus that led as Jörg Muller and Andy Priaulx took to the grass on opposite sides of the track. Augusto Farfus has been fastest in the free practice sessions, beaten to pole by the Seats and, of course, the Chevrolets. Alex Zanardi recovering from contact out of Hasselrode. He was spun round but rejoined with no major damage. James Thompson a little further back in the Honda. But Augusto Farfus clearly with his intention to get away from the rest before they got up to speed. Tarquini, Huff, Thiago Montero, Alain Menu, Jörg Muller, Jordi Genet and Ricard Rydell, the top 8. Already a lot of changes from the front of the grid, and Jörg Muller among them. Muller had started down in 13th position, and he made a good start picking up ground, but Nicola Larini's race was already over, even as teammate Rob Huff tried to make up another place around corner number 8. Jaap van Lagen in among the top 3 of the independence category in his Lada at the start of the race with a 30-kilo weight break, and a day's testing here helping that car. But Pierre-Yves Courtal in the Munro Seat leading the independent race early on. Tarquini across the line at the end of the first lap in 2nd place. Rob Huff, the pole man, in 3rd, and Augusto Farfus already a second and a half ahead. Priaulx coming down the inside track, trying to make up ground on the long line of Seats. Trying to get by Ricard Rydell for 8th place, which he managed. That stage behind him, in fact it was Ivan Muller, Ricard Rydell in 8th, Ivan Muller in 10th place behind Priaulx, Tom Coronel next up. And Muller a little off the pace in qualifying, seemed to be off the pace still. Jörg Muller on the outside, bobbling around as Thiago Montero went through, followed by Jordi Genet and Ricard Rydell. And Jörg Muller was in trouble, dropped 3 places in 1 corner. Andy Priaulx also going by the German, whose car was grinding slowly to a halt. Seemed to be something amiss perhaps with the left front corner. But whatever, as he ground out to the back of the grid, looked like Christian Poulsen firing off backwards from behind. More contact in these busy opening laps. And the only man who was safe from all of this was clear out front, Augusto Farfus, pulling away from Tarquini. Rob Huff and Alain Menu now up into 4th place for Chevrolet, promising chance of a blue car on the podium, where they have never yet finished on the top 3 positions in any race. Lap 6 of 14 in the first World Touring Car race at Oschersleben in Germany, being led by Augusto Farfus in the BMW. Trouble though in the battle for 3rd. Gabriele Tarquini not content to sit behind Alain Menu any longer, getting inside the Chevrolet driver through the final corner, making contact with the tail end. Menu hanging on to the car as Augusto Farfus led comfortably from Rob Huff, his teammate. Well, Tarquini was at the front of a long queue of Seats, Thiago Montero, Jordi Genet and the rest. And this is where 3rd had changed hands half a lap earlier. Alain Menu making a comfortable move down the inside through the S's. Tarquini making a rather ham-fisted attempt at getting the inside line back through the final corner. Now that was the last Tarquini would see at Menu as the Chevrolet started to ease away. Further back in the battle for 8th and the last point, Ricard Rydell with Andy Priaulx, and right behind him Tom Coronel. But out front, looking for a big haul of 10 points, was Augusto Farfus. At this stage, with Tarquini in 4th place, his championship was looking a little better than Ivan Muller's. Muller was out of the points, but the RML boys, with their cars in 2nd and 3rd, wondering whether they could do anything about Augusto Farfus. Even in clear air, however, Rob Huff could not lap as quickly as the Brazilian, and Menu in 3rd in the 2nd blue Chevrolet couldn't lap as fast as his English teammate either. Tarquini was clearly in trouble. Thiago Monteiro, Jordi Genet, Ricard Rydell, the next 3 cars, all Seats, and all going a little more quickly. Prio having a look at the back of Rydell, but taking his nose back out of the way through the S's. Clearly all over the back of the Seat Turbo Diesel though, as they came through the final corners, and he needed to be. He had Tom Coronel right behind, and Coronel would go by him if he possibly could. Prio lining up a move down into the first turn, but the power of the TDI just keeping Rydell out of the way as Montero dived to the inside of Tarquini and up into 4th. Tarquini started the race a point off the championship lead held by Ivan Muller, but he was in trouble. Rydell also really under attack from Prio. So with Montero now clear of Tarquini, it was Genet's turn. Nicola Larini looking very dischuffed. He was off in the first corner, of course, after contact with Montero. Montero was in the middle, got bounced between Farfus and Genet, and was pretty much powerless to resist. Rydell going by Tarquini. So Tarquini clearly struggling and dropping down towards the tail of the points. As Ricard Rydell got through, Andy Prio was pushing, squeezed around the inside. And then Tarquini trying to fight back, pushing with the inevitable consequence as they got to the chicane that Prio's car was fired off into the barriers, much to the disgust of his team boss Bart Mampai. Prio had just worked his way up into the points after qualifying out of the top 10, and now fired off into the barriers, trying to rejoin, but the right rear wheel and the left front wheel pointing in opposite directions. Well, Tarquini kept his foot in the throttle, and there was never going to be any other result. Prio off in the barriers. Right rear wheel makes the first major impact. That gets broken, but the left front also gone. Prio had no steering at that stage, out of control. So Huff in 2nd, Menu in 3rd, leading the Seat Armada, and leading the independent category, Pierre-Yves Courtal going around the hobbled Gabriele Tarquini and up into the top 8, where Felix Portiero already found himself. But Courtal understeering wildly off the track after front-end damage at the start, and Portiero checking up in front of him a lap earlier. His car was in trouble. Stefano D'Aste dived by in the BMW into the lead of the independent category, and for now Pierre-Yves knew he was going to desperately be trying to hold on. Genet got by Tarquini without any problems, as had Ricard Rydell. But Tarquini had drawn the line when Prio came alongside, decided he was going to give no further ground. Augusto Farfus comfortably out front, more than 6-second advantage over Rob Huff, and Huff similarly over 3 seconds ahead of Alain Menu in 3rd place. Giving chase seemingly in vain for the first time all season, the Seats. Thiago Monteiro in 4th, Jordi Genet in 5th, Ricard Rydell in 6th, Tom Coronel in 7th, and then a BMW of Felix Portiero in 8th. None of them able to catch the top 3. Independent category leader Stefano D'Aste in 9th, following Felix Portiero, as world champion Andy Prio stalked in a state of high displeasure back towards the pits, leaving his wrecked car behind. And there was to be more wreckage before the end of the race. Duncan Heisman there coming back on track as a result of this incident, avoiding action after James Thompson had been pushed sideways by last year's Alpha teammate Olivier Tielemans. Big save from Thompson, only just hangs onto the car as it tries to spin away from him, but poor Heisman has to take to the grass on the outside. As Tomo gets back on, Heisman's got nowhere left to go, and through goes Marin Kolak and Jaap van Lagen in the independent category. Pierre-Yves Courtal in his Seat, 2nd in the independents for the moment, but points leader Sergio Hernandez trying to squeeze through, doesn't find room first time of asking, but the desperately understeering Monroe Seat really in trouble. The BMW all over, and it's surely a matter of time. With 3 laps after the current one, Hernandez has got enough time to pick and choose his corner. Courtauld knows that apart from anything else, wherever the road turns left, he's in real trouble getting the car slowed down and getting it to turn. Through the chicane, Hernandez close onto the straight, and with the BMW towing up behind him, Courtauld knowing that he's got a hard job to do to get it slowed down into the S's. Defending hard. Further back, Tarquini dropping further down the order. Even Ivan Muller managed to get through. James Thompson struggling in the middle of the independent category. Andrei Romanov right behind him in the second of the Engstler Liqui Moly BMWs. Franz Engstler himself having retired after just one lap, one of 4 retirements in the early going. Behind him, Duncan Heisman picking him off to pick up a place. Heisman in a brand new Vika Sport BMW. Meanwhile, down into the first corner, Hernandez makes the inside move. He didn't know the trouble that the Seat was having getting stopped, but he soon found out. Pierre-Yves unable to hold a candle to him. Left front wheel smoking as his suspension collapsed. Courtauld's car sitting down on the right front corner, and he was not to last long. Ivan Muller with Alex Zanardi on one side and Olivier Tielemans trying to go around the outside. Championship leader really struggling way out to the point and desperately trying to hold on for at least a half relevant grid position in race 2, where you start, where you finish, except for the top 8 who are reversed. Tielemans ahead of Zanardi, that place changed at least, and Alex, it seemed, would not be within any distance of being able to repeat his 2006 victory here at Oschersleben, which so memorably brought him back to winner's circle for the first time since his near fatal IndyCar accident not far down the road on the Euro Speedway at Lausitz. Suddenly Pierre-Yves Courtauld was slowing up, as Jörg Müller had early in the race, and he would try and drag the car back to the Hexagon engineering team for repairs, desperate to try and get it sorted out for race 2. Already falling desperately adrift of the 2 Pro Team BMWs of Stefano D'Asti and Sergio Hernandez. He could ill afford another 0 score, but that's what was coming his way. On board with Rickard Rydell, top 6 position for the Swedes, chasing Montero and Genet, but none of the Seat Turbo Diesels able to make much of an impression. Maybe the heat, maybe the long constant radius corners, but whatever, here at Oschersleben, a track that had favoured Seat in the past, even having the first Turbo Diesel win in 2007, they were struggling against the BMWs and the Chevrolets. For the first time all season, we seem to have found a racetrack where Seat did not have an advantage over everyone else. Bottom of the top 8, Tom Coronel and the independents battling for the last couple of points. James Thompson's Honda down in the mid-teens. Thompson on the top of the picture, coming down hard and fast into the final corner, trying to get a position back from Jaap van Lagen's Lada. And when you're in the middle of the independent category, you know that the battle is just as tough as it is at the front of the field. There seems to be no love lost between the Seat teammates at the moment, no team orders. Everybody streamed by Gabriele Tarquini, even before it was clear that he was really in trouble. And Tom Coronel trying to pick off Rickard Rydell to pick up another point, despite the fact that Rydell was due to move up into 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. The 3rd best placed of the cars after Tarquini and Ivan Muller in the point standings when they came to Germany. Coronel with a really strong car in qualifying, 4th fastest. His car wouldn't restart on the weighbridge though when he was pulled in for a random check, and he lost 5 places, so started 9th. Alex Zanardi and Olivier Tielemans again having contact. Zanardi retaking the place from the Dutchman. And as they headed towards the end of the race, out front, the BMW of Augusto Farfus just romping away. Zanardi and Tielemans battling for 12th place. And Tom Coronel trying to move himself up from 7th and into 6th position. Behind him, Felix Portero If nothing else changed, it would be Coronel and Portero on the front row of the grid. 8th place man takes pole for race 2. Felix Portero denied a win by his teammate Alex Zanardi and Bruno a couple of months earlier in the summer. Would certainly like to benefit from pole position in race 2, maybe claim his first victory of the season. 11 different winners in the previous 14 races in the main category, but in the Independence Trophy the wins have been really swept up by the pro team. They have had 8 of the 14 victories between them, and it seemed that Stefano D'Aste was on his way to a hat-trick, a 3rd straight win, with teammate Sergio Hernandez losing the championship lead in his first race at Oschersleben with his 3rd straight 2nd place. Last lap, the Chevrolets chasing the BMW across the line, but Farfus was not going to be caught barring some minor miracle or major malfunction. And behind, Thiago Monteiro safe in 4th place. Jordi Genet, Ricard Rydell, Tom Coronel, Felix Portero, and then Stefano D'Aste outside of the top 8, but comfortably leading the independents. Jürgen Müller had pitted for repairs and was back out 3 laps behind everybody else, trying to pull himself up the race 2 grid by passing a couple of cars. As Zanardi and Tielemans again made contact in their battle for position number 12. From Augusto Farfus' viewpoint though, it makes a great sight. Empty track in front of him, nobody in the mirrors behind, almost like a test session, out on his own, lapping at his own pace. He'd broken the opposition very early on, made the best of a kerfuffle at the start, got himself into the lead as Tarquini and Huff, the front row starters, knocked spots off each other, and nobody saw him after that. Rob Huff in 2nd place. That Brands Hatch loss of victory because of the puncture 2 laps from home would not be avenged, but for Chevrolet, who previously always struggled here to get onto the podium at Oschersleben, 2nd and 3rd, a very good start to the German weekend for the 1,700 fans from Chevrolet Germany's dealerships in the grandstands. But for the German fans, victory for BMW Team Deutschland and Augusto Farfus. Surely Benau, the German, an honorary German, the Brazilian, he takes victory with Rob Huff in 2nd and Alain Menu in 3rd place. But after a race full of incident and accident between race 1 and race 2, the stewards would have plenty to think about. Oschersleben in Germany, race 2.